I said on the show a couple of weeks ago, and you're a big MMA fan as well. You've been following, watching for a long time,
Yes, sir.
covering as well. I said that the UFC has a star problem. That the biggest star in the sport is the UFC and Dana White, right? And that's by design. That's not a mistake. But you start talking about these larger than life characters in boxing, right? Right now, who's larger than life? Canelo's larger than life.
Fury's
AJ's
larger than life. So many.
Fury, Garcia's in that conversation.
Bacoli's emerged. Like there's Joseph Parker.
People are
know
coming
these
up.
people. Yeah.
Better be a Bivol. Maybe not in America, but on a worldwide
Agreed.
scale, right? And I'm starting to think like, man, listen, I'm not going to get into the argument. Eddie said it on the show that like boxing is hotter than MMA. The MMA business here is on fire. The UFC business in particular, their deal with ESPN is going to be gigantic. Their pay-per-view is big. Their gates are big. These are all ways to measure success. But do you agree with that assessment? As someone who follows both, knows both very well, interacts with the stars of here, has interacted with the stars of there, does the UFC, in your opinion, have a star problem? Do they not have big enough names? It's not even a question.
It's not even a question. It's not even a question.
And how does that make you feel? Like, how do you feel about that as someone who's attracted to the larger than life characters, who talks to them, who interacts with them?
It surprises me because over the years, I've always felt like if star A vanishes or disappears, the UFC quickly finds star B. They're replaced so quickly. You can go back to the Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz time, and then who's going to replace them? And all of a sudden, BJ Penn and GSP emerge. But now I'm like, where are they? And I think the biggest star is a guy that doesn't speak English. I love him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's fantastic. Pereira doesn't maybe need to speak English, but he's their biggest star. But even he's been willed out so much by the UFC. He seems to be fighting more frequently than any fighter.
He loses on Saturday to a guy named Magomed Ankalaev. It's not great.
Dude, he could lose. He could. That's such a scary matchup, and I'm surprised they've made it just because
they didn't want
him. Is a wrestler, and he feel like he could just keep him on that floor for 25.
Then what are you looking at? You're looking at a promotion that doesn't have Conor fighting actively these days. Sean O'Malley, who was supposed to be the next guy, is probably going to fight for the belt in June, but that's not a gimme fight against Merab. Pereira just lost. Izzy just lost. Who knows how long he has left. Like, who are your guys? Now, I was on a radio show earlier today with my friend JD Bunkus, Rogers Sportsnet, and he has been banging this drum for a long time. There are no stars. They have a big star problem. And I would always say, no. But for the first time, I was like, no, you are right. But I don't think on a Monday morning the UFC wakes up, if Pereira loses on Saturday, Dana White, Hunter Campbell, the bosses, and says, oh my God, the sky is falling.
No, you know why they don't? And this is the problem between fans and businesses. Businesses look at numbers, fans look at the names. So I'm guessing the UFC model will be, well, 1 second, let's look at the numbers though, dude.
Yeah.
And all they care about is numbers. That's it. There are guys with computers that will say, yeah, but this did. Whereas fans like, okay, no, but where's the star? Who can we relate to? So I don't think they care as much as we think they do.
Do they maybe not care on Monday, but they should care about what it will become in a year or two? You have to have stars. At some point, this stance, which I believe in now, which is the UFC is the biggest star.
By the way,
at some point that fizzles out.
UFC, and I don't know if this is a direct relationship to no stars, but the Apex is killing me.
Oh my God,
dude! Don't even. But that could almost be the reason as to why there is no stars as well. I know it's eventually if you're good enough, you go from the Apex to a numbered event, but like the Apex is just ruining people. Like to the point where I don't even watch what goes on. I don't even watch the fights at the Apex anymore. Yes. So sometimes you get really good performances at the Apex because you see the highlights and who's this dude? But you're not invested in watching at the Apex. Like the Apex for me was just for COVID.
It's pandemic.
All of a sudden, Dana's like, no, it saves us a lot of money. Let's keep it in house. It's ruined the UFC. The Apex.
It feels like McDonald's. It feels like everything is just carbon copy. They're all wearing the same thing. A lot of the fights are happening in the same place. Nothing's sticking out. And that to me, again, right now is not a problem because they're flying. But in a year from now, if you're left with an organization that doesn't have any stars, what's so interesting about this, I was talking to a manager about this yesterday, and he was saying to me, he was complaining about this, and I said, I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that the sport has never been more popular in America. Younger kids have never been more into it. My nephews who are in their teens, who are in high school, are asking me about like mid-level guys. I'm like, I can't even believe you know who these people are. And yet I feel like there's this lack of star issue. And I don't know how to explain. It's never been more popular. Kids are loving it. It's not just like a 34-year-old male sport anymore. And yet If they only knew what it was 6, 7, 8 years ago, could you imagine?
Crazy.
In the era of GSP and then Connor and Anderson Silva and all these guys, what would it be like? Maybe they just don't know better. Maybe they just don't know, and it's this nice new thing that they love.
Even after them, we still had. I mean, look, Kobe Covington's crazy, but at least he tried to create his own thing, right?
Yeah.
And that little beef with Kamaru. We had those guys, at least, you know, we had Jorge Masvidal. We had people that are like, okay, you maybe weren't as big as Conor or GSP, but you filtered out and you were still big. And the female side of thing, I think, is horrendous, dude. Like, dude, honestly, it's...
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm a big defender of women's MMA, but I see a lot of people aren't on the same...
The lack of stars in the female side of it, I don't even know what to say. It's horrendous.
Is it a star thing or a talent thing in your opinion? Are you one of those?
No. They're super talented.
Okay.
No. They're super.
Because there are some who say they're not.
You watched it. No. There's still some talent there. I mean,
there's just no. Zhang Weili.
Yeah, and her and Shevchenko are gonna look like they might, but there's such a size difference in that. I think it's too big. So again, it's almost like we're trying to force two stars that really shouldn't be fighting because there's not a weight category for them, I think, to get it on.
But it is cyclical a bit, right? All combat sports. Boxing may be flying high, and then there's the heavyweight division.
The drop in the UFC.
Yeah.
Not to the extent, and then you don't get.
Are you less interested?
John Jones? Yeah.
You are.
Yeah, because I would still put myself down as a casual UFC fan. I mean, I watch most pay-per-view events, but I'm like, where the star? Like this Aspinall John Jones thing.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Like, dude, if this was the UFC 5 years, that fight's done. 5 years ago, I feel like we're getting that fight. It's happening. There's no.
Do you know why we're not? We're not getting that fight because John is asking for a lot of money, which he deserves. He's not out of bounds.
What kind of? Give me a number, rough. I know you won't know exact pocket numbers, but what? Give me a rough number.
What was that Deontay Wilder number?
What did he get? 20 million?
23.
Something like
23.
Okay, cool.
So
why can't he get that?
They don't need to make it. There's no pressure on them. They sold the pay-per-view business to ESPN. At least for now. It could change at the end of this year. But what I mean by that is...
No, but then you make Aspinall a star.
Yeah,
if Aspinall beats John...
It's all bought and paid for. There's no pressure on them anymore.
And that's the problem.
This is the problem.
So Aspinall's not a star because
he can't. There was once a time where they were desperate to make these fights. They had Conor Khabib. You got to make that fight. Are you kidding? You have to do everything in your power to move mountains to make that fight.
John Ngannou
went away, and I could see it now. John asked for a lot of money. You could see the press conference right now where he'll sit up there and be like, "Yeah, we couldn't make it happen. He was asking for too much. Aspinall's the new champ." Right? Like, can you not see that press conference?
UFC fighters, and I say UFC because, again, that's the big boy organization. They must see the numbers that some of these boxers are making. And we're talking mid-tier, lower-level boxers. I'm talking that fight on these Riyadh season cards. And obviously the numbers are rumored, but they must hear or see the rumored numbers and think, well, what's going on here?
I don't even know if they do. I really don't know if they do. They don't look at, by the way, we've been talking about this for years. The UFC is about to sign a multi-billion-dollar TV deal. Do they look at the NBA and say, hey, those guys are getting 50% of that deal? We
again, and this kind of goes back to the...
They're getting 0%.
This goes back to the top of the discussion that we started with today. When one organization is running the roost, they can literally do whatever they want. And that's my fear with TKO Promotions. Look, it was early and we're just sort of throwing things out here, but you will get to a stage where we can pay you what you want because there's no other organization that's going to pay you. So this is it and whatever. This is it and whatever. Don't know.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.